Hello everyone. So hope you are doing good today. So in today's topic I am going to cover two things. So I assume you have couple of time heard this word bandwidth and throughput. So I will explain you today what this word mean these words mean in detail. So let's begin with the bandwidth path first. Okay. So whenever we are talking about bandwidth and throughput in IT or networking terms, I am going to cover from this perspective. What do we mean by that? So bandwidth is nothing. It is actually the capacity of a medium. It is the capacity of a medium to carry data. As simple as that. Okay. And what does bandwidth measures, or what does a digital bandwidth measures? Digital bandwidth. It's nothing but it is the amount of data that can flow from one place to another, or from source to destination, from one place source to other destination in a given amount of time. Okay. See, whenever we talk about the word bandwidth, right? So you should, one thing, it should always, strike your mind. Like, what is the capacity of a medium? Like, how much amount of data in terms of seconds or, units of time, the medium can carry, right? So I'm also going to discuss, the various, like the units of bandwidth. Okay. So digital bandwidth is nothing. It is the amount of data that can flow from one place, that is source, to other destination in a given amount of time. Okay. So see, bandwidth, basically, let me talk about the unit of bandwidth now. Right? What is the unit of bandwidth? So it is typically measured in number of bits that can be sent across media in a second. Okay. So let's suppose if I can send one bit. Remember, I have already made a video, so you can check out my video on bit, the basic unit which we use in digital information technology, 0 or 1, right? So how many bit or number of bits, right, I can send in 1 second? If in 1 second, right, I can send one bit. So what is going to be my unit? It is going to be bit or bits per second. Okay. So let me also discuss some of the common units of bandwidth. Okay. So let me write it over here. Some of the common units of bandwidth. Let me write it over here. Some of the units of bandwidth. Okay. So let's suppose if I can send thousands of bit per second, right? So let's suppose, let me start with the smallest unit and let me increase it like downwards over here, right? So be bits or bit per second, right? Mbps, right? It is fundamental unit of bandwidth. Fundamental unit of bandwidth. See, whenever we are going to compare, like whether let's suppose my this internet connection or this physical medium can carry is fast or slow, right? Is fast or slow, it depends upon how much more bits my physical media can carry, right? Because bandwidth or bits per second is a fundamental unit, right? That is how we measure how many bits can we transmit from one point, that is source, to another point, that is destination. If I can transmit more bits per second, obviously my physical medium is faster. If I can send low bits per second from source to destination, that simply means that my physical medium is slower. Okay. Now the second thing is kilobits. Kilobits per second or kbps. kbps, right? What does kbps mean? 1 kbps is equal to 1000 bits per second or 10 to the power 3 bits per second. Okay. Next thing is megabits. See, if you have ever talked to an internet service provider, right, you would have asked what is the internet speed or how many megabits per second your internet connection can provide me, right? And based on the amount of number your ISP gives you, you make a decision whether you want to have this internet or no, right? So megabits is written as like megabits per second, and 1 Mbps is equal to 10 to the power 6 bits per second or bps. Okay. Next thing is gigabits, right? Or gbps. So 1 gbps is equal to 10 to the power 9 bits per second, right? This means that I can send around 10 to the power 9 bits in 1 second. This means that I can send like 1 million bits per second, right? So obviously this is faster than this, and this is faster than this, right? And this is obviously faster than bps or a bit per second. Okay. So next unit is what? Terabits, right? So tbps, right? So 1 tbps is equal to what? 10 to the power 12 bits per second, right? Obviously this is faster than this, right? Because obviously you can send more bits per second over here as compared to this, if you compare to this, if you compare to this, right? So this is the fundamental unit of bandwidth. Okay. And one thing you have to keep in mind, right? So different physical medium actually provides different transfer speed, provides different transfer speed. Okay. It depends upon the physical medium you are using. If you are using a coaxial medium or a coaxial cable, right, it has a certain limitations. It can provide certain kbps speed or mbps, right, as compared to if you are using a fiber optic connection, right? So fiber optic cable is going to provide maybe kind of like, you know, in the higher ranges of megabits, or you know, in the starting ranging of gigabits, right? If you're talking about a satellite connection, right, or a satellite based internet, obviously it is going to provide like 300, 400 or maybe 700 megabits, right? Or in the starting range of gigabits, right? So physical medium is the limiting factor, right? Or is the basic, you know, inhibiting factor which actually provides the speed, like how many bits you can transfer. right? Obviously, if you are talking about a dial-up connection, right? Earlier, like 15-20 years ago, we used to have the dial-up connection, right? It used to provide speed in some kilobits per second, right? So it actually depends upon which kind of physical medium you are using, right? So this is the basic fundamental, understanding of like bandwidth, right? So now I am going to come to the next thing, or the next important part, which is commonly used in information technology term, and that is throughput. Okay, so bandwidth and throughput, these are the terms which you are going to hear very common, right? So what do I understand by the word throughput, right? So throughput, it is the measure of the transfer of bits across the media over a given period of time. Okay, so I am also going to discuss like what basically, actually influences the throughput part. Like I have discussed like what influences the bandwidth part, right? So it is actually the hardware part which influences, or the material part, right? Hardware or the material part. What do I mean by material part? Like whether I am using coaxial cable or I am using fiber optic, right? That is the hardware or the material part. Or I am using satellite or dish, right? So it basically influences the bandwidth part, right? So in throughput part, I am also going to discuss what influences the throughput part, right? First, let me make you understand the basic. Second part, so it is also the amount of data that can be sent or received. Okay, so it is the amount of the data that can be sent or received over a connection. Okay, so this is the meaning of the word throughput part. Obviously, there are going to be something called as delays, right? Which is going to obviously influences the throughput part, right? So but that is the basic definitions. If somebody asks you in the interview, what do you understand by the word bandwidth and what do you understand by the word throughput, so I assume you should be able to tell this. And one thing you have to keep in mind, right, which is very very important. So what is that thing? So throughput does not match, right? Doesn't match with bandwidth. Okay, so do not get confused in these terms, right? Throughput doesn't match with the word bandwidth. Okay, and what are the factors, right? What are the factors which influences the throughput part? Factors which influence throughput, right? What are the factors which influence throughput, right? First factor, amount of data that can be sent or received over the connection. Over a connection. Okay, second factor, the type of data which we are transmitting. Type of data which we are transmitting, right? Whether it is simple word file, right? Or a image file, PNG, or a video file, right? It depends upon that also, right? Obviously this is going to be in GBs, this is in maybe KBs or MBs, and this is also in KBs or MBs, right? Depending upon how much data we are storing. Third part, the latency that is created by number of network devices that is encountered between source and destination. Okay, so it also depends, like let's suppose this is your source, right? Source computer or PC1, and this is your destination computer, PC2, right? How many if we are transmitting a simple mail, right? How many network devices this mail is going to encounter? Let's suppose here, first of all, we receive something called as router, right? After this router, let's suppose we have our network configuration like this, right? We don't know like how they are connected with each other, right? So it also depends how my data is going to be flowing from here to here, right? How many network devices, whether my data is going from here to here, right? Or my message is going from here to here, right? Anything can happen, or here to here, right? So how many network devices my data is going to hit, right? It is also going to influence the throughput part. Okay, obviously the internet is designed in such a manner that it takes the shortest path first, shortest path first, right? So but it also depends in the shortest path we are which we are following, like how many network devices we are hitting before we actually receive the destination, right? So what is the meaning of the word latency? Now let me quickly discuss what is the meaning of the word latency, because I talk a word which is called as latency, right? What do we mean by latency? This is another question which you can basically encounter in your interview, right? Latency is nothing, it refers to the amount of time including delays right for a data to travel from source to destination. Okay, so this is the meaning of the word latency. It's nothing, it's amount of time including delays for a data to travel from source to destination. Okay, so what is the fourth factor, right, which can basically influence your throughput? Okay, fourth factor. So let's suppose let me describe it in a simple manner. Okay, so fourth, these are the three main factors, right, which influences the throughput. So there is one fourth important point which you should keep in mind, and that point is that throughput measurements. Whenever we are talking about throughput measurements, okay, whenever we are talking about throughput measurement, right, you have to keep in mind it doesn't take into account the validity or usefulness of the bits which are being transmitted and received. Okay, so it does not take into account whether these bits are useful or no, or what is the validity, right? Sometimes there is the validity of a packet or a bit, right? It does not take into account the throughput measurement. So this is the important point you should keep in mind. Okay, so there are many, bits or messages which are being sent or broadcast in a network, right? So throughput doesn't take into account the validity or the usefulness, right? We just have to broadcast it to various computers, whether it is being useful for one PC or no, right? It does not take into account this thing, throughput measurement, right? But obviously it is going to eat up your bandwidth, right? Because whatever bits you are sending, whether they are useful or no, it doesn't matter, right? They are going to eat up your hardware resources, right? So that is one thing you have to keep in mind. Okay, and next thing, fifth point, which you have to keep in mind, right, regarding throughput. See, in a network, right, obviously in a network, I'm talking about a very complex network or an intermediate complex network, right? I'm not talking about peer-to-peer network. Okay, so in a network like which have multiple segment, in a network with multiple segment, throughput cannot, I'm writing it in uppercase, cannot be faster than the slowest link of the path from source to destination. Okay, so let's suppose if this is one PC, right? This is other PC. This is receiver, I'm only writing RX. This is sender, I'm only writing SX, right? So let's suppose your data goes from here, then it follows a certain part over here, right? It can also go from here to here, right? It can also go from here to here, right? There can be many paths, right? 1 2 3, I'm not writing any network equipment, right? So your throughput cannot be faster than the slowest link. Let's suppose this is my slowest link, right? So my throughput cannot be faster, right? I cannot send data faster than the speed of this link or the slowest link of this in the network, right? So let's suppose my this link is faster, first, second and third, right? This is my fastest link. Let me write it over here. Let me put like second is faster than first and first is faster than 3, right? So what do I mean to say? If my second is a faster than first, first is faster than 3, right? So this is my fastest link and this is my slowest path, right? So my throughput cannot be faster than the slowest path, right? Because this is the slowest throughput I can have. So I cannot have any faster throughput than this path, right? So this is the important point which you have to keep in mind. Okay, so let's suppose even if all of your segments have the high bandwidth, right, it will only take one segment in the path with the lower bandwidth to create a slowdown of the throughput, right? Let's suppose all of your segments are on the high bandwidth, right? Even if your one of these segment is on the slowest path or is the slowest, right? So it is going to obviously affect your throughput part, right? And you cannot have a throughput which is faster than this slowest path, right? This is the this is one thing you have to keep in mind whenever we are talking about the throughput. Okay, so also let me write in the technical language. In a network with multiple segments, right, throughput cannot be faster than the slowest link of the path from source to destination. Okay, this is the important point you have to keep in mind. Throughput cannot be faster than the slowest link of the path from source to destination. So throughput cannot be faster than the slowest link of path from source to destination. Okay, so this is my fastest path, second fastest path, and this is the slowest path. So throughput cannot be faster than the slowest link of the path from source to destination. Okay, so this is the important point which you have to keep in your mind. Okay, so that is the thing. So this was a short comparison and explanation of the difference between bandwidth and throughput. Okay, so thanks for tuning it out, and I will see you in the next session. Thank you.